Hey, my beautiful people. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about a specific topic that you guys wanted me to talk about. The reason why I know this is because I did a poll on my community tab, and overwhelmingly, you guys voted for me to talk about why I left the left. Not only did I leave the left, but I ran from the left politically. I used to be more left-leaning, and now I'm just more, centrist, right-leaning politically on many issues, particularly social issues. So without further ado, you guys wanted this, so let's talk about why the left is freaking crazy. So a little about my background. So growing up, I want to say I grew up more conservative, right-leaning. Just some quick history. My dad is a pastor and my mom is a worship leader in church. So I grew up constantly around Christian beliefs and just a Christian upbringing when I was, a kid and of course a teenager. And then of course I entered that phase that we all enter when we start to grow into our own. So I want to say about maybe 21, 22 is when I started to kind of veer away from, conservative beliefs. And I wanted to form my own, perspective and opinion on things. Because at that age, you don't really know much. At that age, you have no real experience. And normally you're just mimicking your parents or you're mimicking people around you. But you haven't really formed your own educated opinions based on your own experiences at that age. And so I can remember when I first moved to the state of Florida with my parents, and I think I was about, 20 years old. And for the first time, I had to get a state ID. And when you do the state IDs, there's a portion where they ask you what your political party is or what your political affiliation is. And I remember being at the DMV and my dad being like, you should pick Republican. But, and I gotta give him credit for this, he never pushed me to pick Republican. He literally was like, at the end of the day, do what you want to do what you feel is right for you. But I would pick Republican. But, the choice is yours to make. And at that ripe age, I decided to pick independent. I didn't want to pick Democrat because I felt like I wasn't really a Democrat as far as their social political leanings. But I also didn't want to pick Republican because I wanted to form my own opinions based on my own experiences as opposed to just checking off a box because my family said so, which unfortunately so many people do. So at that age, I knew that I wanted to be a free thinker. And that's why I registered as independent, and I'm still a registered independent today. So at that age, although I picked independent, I still was more right-leaning, but I hadn't really formed enough information to substantiate why I was really right-leaning. I just was doing it because it's what was around me. And, as per usual, you go to college, you enter the liberal world, and you start getting, I don't want to say indoctrinated, but you start being influenced by liberal belief systems that you once felt were wrong or weren't exactly correct, but it's everywhere. Like, I remember being in classes that had nothing to do with politics or had nothing to do with spirituality, but yet the liberal professors were also eager to talk badly about Christianity and talk badly about Republicans and talk badly about right-leaning policies. And at that age, I remember feeling like a fish out of water. I was like, wait a minute, like, I don't know what I'm supposed to say. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Is this normal? Why they're going so in on politics in school? It doesn't make any sense. And this is like in the early 2000s. This is like 2004, 2005. So back then it was beginning. Now, obviously today it's completely different. It's even more extreme. It's even more liberal. It's even more left wing. But back then it was like, it was starting to trickle in, those beliefs. And I felt really uncomfortable because I knew that this wasn't right. I felt like this is weird. This is supposed to be an English class and we're talking about Christianity. Doesn't make any sense. But, if you talked out against it, then you were the crazy person. And so I remember just feeling this like pull to the left. Like the left was normal. The left was where logical people lived, and the right were filled with closed-minded people and all other sorts of names that I can't say because I get demonetized. So that was sort of the foundation of me starting to like see the world a little bit differently from the lens of liberals, but not being indoctrinated at that point in time. I want to say I then started to just, meet new people, hear different experiences. I started watching different types of shows politically that gave a different perspective, and little by little, I found myself leaning more and more to the left than where I was prior in the right. Where most of my family was, I kind of was just like, I'm going to go on this side. And I just started to adopt issues that I don't even want to say those issues were dear to me. They were just issues that I felt like I was supposed to be a part of. Because if you want social change and you want to be a good person, you got to, fight that good fight, right? And I found myself falling for the whole cycle of belief. Identity politics was a good thing. inclusivity, fourth wave feminism, racism is everywhere. Like all of those things were just like pumped into my head constantly in school and at work and on TV and media. And, you know, after a while, it just became normal. After a while, it was like, yeah, that makes sense. Liberal beliefs weren't so bad. And I remember kind of sitting back and thinking, wow, I've changed a lot. Like I was able to like actually see my change. There was still that part of me, that little conservative side of me that was like, are you sure? Are you sure? And I always say this, it's much easier to be liberal in today's world than it is to be conservative, like 1000%, because you get praised if you're liberal. You get celebrated if you're liberal. You get rewarded if you're liberal in school, at work, in entertainment, everywhere. It's celebrated. And if you speak out against any of those structures, you immediately get called every phobia in the world. And who wants that, right? Nobody wants that. So I was like, I'm gonna just stay over here because it's just easier to be over here. I didn't say that literally, but that's what my subconscious was actually telling me. Just stay over here, you're good. I was all about racial justice in every form and fashion, and I was pretty much mimicking and mirroring what you would expect from a typical left-wing person when it comes to police and things of that nature. And unfortunately, I didn't see any nuance with that situation. I wasn't paying attention to actual studies and statistics because when you are a liberal, you base everything on feelings first and foremost, and statistics and logic and things of that nature are secondary, if they're even in the actual frame. They're like way back there. And I wasn't able to hear any other opinion. I couldn't stand Ben Shapiro. I couldn't stand Candace Owens. Like anybody in that lane, I could not stand, right? And then 2022 came, and that's where everything changed. So when 2022 came, I want to say mid 2022 is when I started to question things, and I started to wonder if I was on the right side of things. I started noticing that the political correctness was just getting so out of hand, and it was only happening on one side. My side. Everything was problematic. Everything was an issue. Everything needed to be changed and erased and redone. And I started to wonder, is this correct? Like, I feel like we're doing too much and it's becoming a turnoff, you know? Like, everything can't be problematic. But when you are a liberal, you are in that mindset. And if you question that mindset, you are going against the rules. Dare I say CULT. But that's what it felt like. Then at the ending of 2022, I started to see this uprising of parents who were going to school boards, who were really upset about what was happening in the schools. Now, I don't have any kids, so I haven't been in school or in the school system in such a long time, especially, you know, elementary, junior high, high school. It's been years. And when I was in school, it was very different than what it is today. So I was assuming that school was the same that it's always been, right? It's school. So when I started hearing about parents being upset and going to school boards and being mad about what was being taught and all of the like explicit things, I, in my liberal mind, was like, they're just being, you know, dramatic. And they're just being excessive, and they're just, you know, pushing right-wing agenda, and nothing's really happening. You know, I don't know why they're so upset. Then I started coming across actual footage of what was being taught in schools. And that's, I believe, is when the light bulb kind of went off for me, and I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. This is not okay. And I started watching videos that were exposing the curriculum in many of these classrooms and the push for this gender ideology. And I couldn't believe it. I literally was like, this can't be real. Like, this is not actually happening. This is not actually being taught in schools, right? And I looked at the data. I looked at the exposing videos. I started watching more and more videos. And I just couldn't ignore what was right in front of my face. I just couldn't ignore it. And, you know, when it comes to kids and when it comes to a part of our society that relies on adults and they can't make choices of their own, they don't have consent, I get a little bit protective. You know, these kids are innocent and they're being what looks like indoctrinated right now. And the more and more videos I watched, the more I was like, whoa, I'm on the wrong side. I literally am on the wrong side. If they're teaching this type of stuff in schools, in pre-K and second, third, fourth grade, I mean, who in their right mind could agree with that? I saw this particular video, and this particular video really, really upset me, and I think was like the tipping point for me where I was like, all right, I'm done.
And the friend likes to ask the question, are you a boy or a girl? And Mash answers, I'm just a kid.
But kids can be boys or...
They can be boys or girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe non-binary.
Yeah.
There's a huge testament to how much we've been talking about it in the classroom, that you never mentioned the term non-binary. It was a child who brought that up because it's constantly in conversation.
I was already weary of the left. I was already starting to question things. I was already starting to feel like I don't belong here any longer. But this is what pushed me over the edge. I then started looking for other voices and other people who were sound-minded and just wanted to give, facts without all of the emotions. And I found one creator who I absolutely fell in love with. I was like, oh my goodness, I love her story. I love her delivery. She's not judgmental. And I love the fact that she used to be a liberal. And she's coming from the same perspective that I was just at. And that person, which many of you probably know, is Amala Eknenobi. And I hope I'm saying her last name correctly. I'm probably not. But Amala, we know her from PragerU. And I started watching Unapologetic, and I started watching her podcast. And at this point in time, I was still at the end of my left-wing journey. And I was moving more towards the right, but I needed just that, that extra push. And watching her videos and her logic and the way that she was able to explain things and the way that she was able to articulate things in a way that I had never heard before. Because again, on the left, it's all emotions. It's all outrage. It's all, buzzwords with very little substance. And here this woman was, Amala, who was giving so much substance on all of these issues, and I couldn't really refute what she was saying. It was making sense. And I was like, whoa. She's making sense. What's going on? And then I started watching more videos of other like-minded people that were on the same wavelength that she was on. And it kind of was like a snowball effect. And I got red-pilled. I got fully red-pilled, and I was like, oh my God. Felt like I was in a cocoon, like I was sleeping for the past 6 years. And then all of a sudden, I woke up and I was like, back to reality, back to your roots. And yeah, things just changed for me. I just started to open my mind more. I started doing more research. I started actually watching videos that were very informative. I started looking at the data. I started actually putting in the work that I was not doing when I was a liberal. When I was a liberal, I was just being spoon-fed by CNN and all of the, mainstream media, what the thought process was supposed to be, and I never really questioned it. Because if you question it, then you are a questionable person. Then your character comes into question, and suddenly your entire being is problematic. I fell for that. I fell for that mindset. I fell for that argument. I fell for that ploy. And for the first time, I allowed myself to be a free thinker again. And I was like, no, I don't care about the judgment. I don't care about the barriers. I don't care about the labels. What I care about is what feels right to me in my heart, in my mind, and what just seems logical. And what I'm seeing over here is not logical. It is all emotional. It is indoctrination. It's exploitation of children. And I just couldn't be down with that party anymore. I couldn't be down with that mindset any longer. And what I saw over here was logic. Plain and simple, logic. I also started to see the difference between people on the right when it came to allowing opinions and allowing free speech and allowing dissension when it came to opinions and arguments. Like when I started talking to more right-leaning people, they were so accepting of me. And when I was on the left and I was getting my feedback from the left, it was pretty much, if you don't think like us, you are the enemy. You are not allowed to have any nuance on these topics. If you don't subscribe to what we believe, then you are phobic. You have an ism, you have a disease, and you need to be cured. That was the mindset of the left versus the right, which was, it's okay if we disagree on some things, let's talk about it. We hate censorship, so let's talk about it. That was a tone on the right, and on the left, it was censorship, 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 censorship. Like literally, just that's all that it was. And it felt like, and it's gonna sound crazy and weird, but it felt like when I left the left, I was leaving like a religion. I was leaving a very deep-seated mindset that had me held captive for a very long time. And the moment I left, it was like, oh, I'm free. I got a weight lifted off my shoulders. And now I can speak about things freely. I don't have to be afraid to speak my mind. I don't have to be afraid to say this is wrong. I don't have to be afraid to give my opinion in a very blunt way, fighting for what I believe is right. And I started making content. I started making content on TikTok, and I started blowing up on TikTok. Like overnight, it was like my videos were just going viral, and I was like, whoa, the amount of support that I've gotten has just been confirmation to me that I'm on the right side. I don't ever just speak with anger, or like I try to come with compassion, but I also want to come with logic as well. And I will not compromise. I spent 6 years compromising on so many things to appease a political ideology, and I'm not doing that any longer. Hopefully I was relatable. I don't know if you guys have your own story. I definitely would love to hear your story in the comments down below if you used to be left-wing and what made you change your ideology and your political affiliation. Let me know in the comments down below because I would love to hear your stories as well. If you enjoy this content, please do not forget to like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. I'm at 40K now, on the road to 50K. I love you guys so much for the support. If you want to also support me on other platforms, you can support me on Instagram and on TikTok, Curly Boy Chuck, on all social media platforms, where I am being continuously canceled every single day just for you guys. Until next time, peace.